Yes, we are going over GoGuardian Teacher today. My name is Brittany Dykes, and I am a customer success manager over here at GoGuardian. I work very closely with Boston Public Schools, and I'm super happy to be here. A huge goal and objective of mine is to make sure that you all walk away feeling confident using this tool in your classroom. A few housekeeping things before we dive in here. Just so you know, this session is being recorded. So I do ask that you mute yourself so that we can eliminate some of that background noise. And of course, if you have a question, my preferred way is for you to just send it right into that chat. I do have it open and I'll take a peek at that side every once in a while and make sure I get those questions. While we're in here, make sure you change your name to your Zoom name to your actual name here, so we all know who everyone is. And yes, utilizing that chat feature here so that we can get all those questions in there. And of course, I'll answer them as I can. This webinar today does have closed captions, so you can actually view the live transcript as well as have a subtitle view if that is something that you would like. Great. So like I said, my objective is to make sure that you all feel confident navigating GoGuardian Teacher features and receive some practical use cases, which is why we'll jump into that demo environment so you can see how you'll actually use this tool in your classroom. Utilizing our chat feature here, I'm curious, how comfortable and how familiar is everyone with GoGuardian? So throw a 1 in the chat if you've never heard of us. There were 2 if you've seen something, so you've watched or heard some things and you haven't used it yet. 3 if you've logged in. 4 if you feel comfortable. 5 if you feel confident. All right, I'm seeing a lot of 2s and 1s. We got a 3 in there. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm loving this. So this helps me kind of gauge about the pacing of this webinar and making sure that, again, we're really hitting those basics so that you feel confident using the tool. So thank you all for answering that question for me. Looking at our agenda today, we're going to do a brief overview of GoGuardian. Some of you have never heard of this tool, so I'm sure you don't even know anything about GoGuardian. So I'll talk a little bit about us, but then we're just going to jump right into GoGuardian Teacher. So we're going to look at that demo environment. We're going to learn how to create our classes, actually start a session, and all the fun features that we have within that session. Then we'll talk about the various reporting features we have, and of course, we'll cover scenes. Oh, yeah, we're not, I would say this, we're not super liked by the kids, but we do make the classroom a little bit more effective. All right, so just covering our mission here. So our whole deal is like, we want to unlock the potential of technology while helping to block harmful and distracting content. So basically, we understand that technology is a huge part of the classroom nowadays, and we know that technology can be a great thing. So how do we utilize the great power that it has while also making sure our students don't fall into the negative and dark sides of technology? So we have a ton of tools, and you all are utilizing GoGuardian Teacher, which gives you insights into how your students are actually navigating in this technological world. And so you're able to redirect your students and help them stay focused and on task so that we're all moving forward in our learning journey. So how it works is that we deploy, well, these 2 extensions right here, the GoGuardian license and the GoGuardian extensions, are deployed on Chrome browsers for our students. So as long as they're in their Chrome browser and they're signing in with their BPS credentials, those extensions will automatically be deployed and you don't have to worry about that. The biggest thing that you'll have to do is create those classrooms so that once you start that session, you'll be able to see your student screens. So like I was saying earlier, a big part of this is being able to unlock some of that effective instruction and just like making our classrooms a bit more powerful while utilizing that technology. So we understand that the dark side of the technology, kind of like the negative components that come with it, kind of negate some of this effective instruction. And you're so focused on all these other pieces and components within your day-to-day lesson within your classrooms that it's hard to like even combat the negative parts without letting it take over. So I'm sure all of you are focused on these various components, and GoGuardian Teacher can actually help you connect with your students and create some of these effective instruction components, make it a little bit easier. All right, so enough of me talking and doing my little spiel about what everything is. Let's actually just jump into the tool so that you get to see what it's like. So first things first, clicking over to this tab here, I'm going to go to teacher.goguardian.com. And then it's going to prompt me to log in. So I'm going to log in with Google here, and it's a single sign-on, it's the authentication. And it pops up. All right, no, thank you. All right, so when your classroom or your dashboard opens up, you won't see all these classroom tiles just yet. It's going to be a little blank. So we'll talk about how to actually create these classrooms. So there are a couple of ways that we can manage that. We can import our classrooms using Google Classroom right here. So if we click that, we can select all of our classes or just a few classes and import them that way. That means all that roster information that you have on your Google Classroom will be pulled over, so you don't have to manually create your classrooms. If you aren't utilizing Google Classroom, you can manually create your classrooms just by clicking Add Classroom right here. So we'll give it a name. So we'll call this homeroom. You'll select the subject as well as give it a description. I want to point out right here where it says default scene, and we'll talk about scenes a little bit later, but think of them as additional filtering rules on top of whatever filtering tool you're already utilizing in your district. So right here, we're not going to have a default scene start, but just so you know, you could always pick one of these scenes once you've created a scene. You could always assign that so that when you start your classroom session, that scene, that additional filtering will automatically be applied to your classroom. So we're going to start with none. We'll add that classroom, and it takes us to this page here. So this is how we would manually add our students. We could use a code. So if I do that, we would ask our students to go to enroll.goguardian.com and type in this code right here. We can add our students one by one utilizing their email addresses, or we can take all of our student email addresses, put them in a CSV and upload that here. So you would just drag that file over and import your students this way. So I'm gonna go back to our classroom tabs, and I'm going to let you see what that looks like. So if I open up our classroom here and I go to my students, these are all the students that I have uploaded. So if I ever need to remove a student, say they're no longer in my classroom, I can do that. If I get a new student midway through the year, I can always add them here as well. So they're not closed off. You can always edit your student roster within GoGuardian Teacher. Other things that I want to point out that is within our classroom card is right here, this teachers tab. If I were to go here, I can actually add additional teachers to this classroom. So right now we can see that I am the default owner because I created this class, but maybe I have a co-teacher that I want to add into this class as well. So I would click add teacher. I would search for their name or email address right here, and I'd select them, and then I would assign them a role. So if I click this little button right here and I go to learn more, and I'll actually share this help article in the chat, this covers the various roles and what permissions that they have granted. So they have this neat little chart here. So if you know that you're adding in a co-teacher and they don't need owner permissions, they just need that teacher permissions, you can set that up within that settings page underneath the teacher tab. So going back here, once you add in your co-teacher or even another helper on this page here, on their classrooms page, once they log in, they would see that classroom tile right there. Also clicking in here, going down to our settings tab. Here's where we can edit some of our information for this class if we need to. Maybe fourth math was great when I first created this classroom, but now I want to think about the period. So I can add in period 1. So I know that this is my first period class, et cetera, et cetera. We could also, right here underneath scheduling, actually schedule these sessions. So this is one place that we can schedule these sessions, meaning if I know that my 4th grade math class happens every Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 2 to 3, I can add that here so that these sessions will automatically start Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. The other place that we can do that is actually right here on the side, a little sidebar. If I go to calendar, and I come here and I want to add some classes to my calendar, I would just click the green add to calendar. I would select the class, and then we will choose, we'll say Tuesday from 8 to 9, and then we'll say Thursday from 8 to 9. Once I add that to my calendar, we'll see that it is not only right here for this week, but it is there for all the other following weeks. Big thing that I like to note here is that it is super important to make sure that we cancel our sessions when students are not supposed to be in school. So think about holidays or even just a random day that they're not supposed to be at school that day, because we don't want to start these sessions and have a look at our students' monitor or their screen. We want to make sure that's canceled. So you can cancel it a couple of ways. You could cancel it one by one just by clicking that cancel button. And we can just this session because they're going to be out tomorrow. If we have multiple sessions scheduled on one day, we can cancel all the sessions on that day by clicking cancel all sessions. We'll cancel it and we'll say just for this Thursday. So now this whole week is cleared, but they're still scheduled for the following week. If need be, say we're about to go on summer vacation and we need to cancel all of our scheduled sessions, all you would do is click the cancel all sessions button, and then you would say this in all future sessions. And we'll do that for both because it's summer vacation and we don't need GoGuardian Teacher. And now all of those sessions have been canceled. All right. Going back to our classrooms tab here. So I talked a lot about how we're actually going to build our classrooms and how we're going to set up our schedules for this coming year. Let's actually start a classroom session and see what you have at your fingertips while you're working within that session. So we're going to launch this session here. So to start this session, we could start it off with chat turned on or off. And the chat, just so you know, is between student and teacher. It is not a student to student chat. So this is just a great way for you to provide real-time feedback to your students, or for them to even ask you a question about the work that they're supposed to be doing. So we can have that toggled off for now, but I'll show you how you can turn it on once we're actually in our session here. We could change the length of our session. So if I know my students are only utilizing this tool for 30 minutes, or only utilizing our Chromebooks for 30 minutes, I can switch it to 30 minutes, or if we're doing it for the entire class period, I can make that longer as well. We'll stick with 45. And to start this session, all I have to do is click the Start Class button that's right here. It'll take a second to load. All right, so now that class has started, I can see all of my student tiles and I can see what they're exploring on the internet right now. I can also sort my students by going to the sort by section right here, sorting by first name, sorting by last name, or even those that are online versus those that are offline. Students that are offline are typically students where they're not in the classroom right now, so they're not on their device, so you're not going to see what is on their screen, or even if you need to exclude a student for certain reasons because maybe they have to go somewhere else or if they are taking a separate test and you don't need to be monitoring their screen, you could always exclude that student and they would be considered offline. Right. We can also resize our student tiles here. So this is pretty small, but maybe you want a bigger view. So we can resize those tiles to get a good view there. We can also click into our student tiles here. So if I click into my student tile, I'm getting a better view of what my students are looking at. And I can also see their active tab as well as the other tabs that they have open here. If I need to, say if I know my student shouldn't be on producthunt.com right now, I could close out that tab for my student to make sure that they aren't distracted by this tab here. So I'll close that tab. And that tab is now closed for my student. Another way to close tabs here, so you can see we have the icons down here, and most of them are pretty familiar to our minds. So if you ever see that YouTube play button icon down here, that means our student has a YouTube video opened up on a separate tab. And if you actually hover over these icons, it'll tell you the exact URL that they are on. And so Jacqueline right now has Kahoot open, but I know that we're not on Kahoot right now. So I can close this tab for Jacqueline right now. And now they don't have access to that tab. Great. So I was talking a little bit earlier about how we could have chat turned on or chat turned off. We could toggle it on even while we're in our session here. So right here, it says chat. All I have to do to toggle it on is click our toggle here. And now our chat is turned on. Indicators for me, besides this on feature right here, that chat is turned on, is the quote bubble next to all of my student tiles and the quote bubble in the bottom right-hand corner. If I click our quote bubble here, I can see all of my students listed out here, and I can actually start a conversation with my students. I'm gonna pause for a second because I see the question here from David. Can we see if they switch to a personal account in Chrome? We don't have that capability since this is extension based. If they are utilizing their BPS credentials and the extensions are deployed, we're not going to be able to see their screen. So if they're utilizing their own personal login for their Chrome, then we don't have access to see that because the extensions would not be deployed.
Quick question, follow-up question. Can we see if they're, maybe you covered this already, if they're active in their school account, like the Chrome profile school account, or if they're inactive?
Yeah, so if they're logged into their Chrome profile and Chrome is open, then you would see their screen if you start the session.
Okay. So if they switch, if they go up to that bubble and switch their profile to their personal account, will there be an indication they've left, like they're not looking active?
Oh, yeah. So then it would say the student's offline. Then you wouldn't be able to see their screen. So I mean, that would be your biggest indicator that like, oh, something fishy is happening.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you see Google Chat? If it's within the browser window, then yes. If they're using like a separate app, then no, we wouldn't be able to catch that. But if they are going to if they're in their Gmail and they're using that Google Chat feature there, then yes, you would be able to see that. All right, looking over here at our chat feature, which again is teacher to student, not student to student. So if Jeff and Morgan are best friends, they cannot talk to each other through GoGuardian Teacher. They can only talk to you. So maybe I was chatting with Jeff, or I was looking at Jeff's screen here, and I see that Jeff keeps getting distracted by various websites and isn't really on task. And Jeff and I have had a conversation weeks ago where whenever he starts to feel like this or gets in this mood, it's because he needs a quick little brain break. So maybe just from viewing his screen here, I reach out to Jeff and I ask him if he needs a quick little break. So I can send that chat message to Jeff. And Jeff will see a quote bubble appear on his screen. He'll be able to click into it and respond back and say, absolutely, Miss Dykes, I need just like a quick break, whatever. So Jeff can come to my desk now and we can discuss an errand that he can run. And so now Jeff gets to have his break. And once he comes back, he will be on task, or at least he would be in a better place to be on task and accomplish our work today. If need be, I feel like I've been in this position many a times as a student where I kind of get lost in my work. You can send a message out to all of your students. So that would be our announcement feature here. So I'm on that quote bubble. I click that. Right next to my name is this megaphone. So if I were to click that, this is how I send an announcement to my entire class. So like I was saying, I was always the kid that got pretty distracted or like so like deep into what I was doing that oftentimes I would lose track of time. And next thing I know, my teacher is telling me that we're moving on to something else. And I felt a little jarred by that experience. Having this announcement feature is pretty great because you can send to all of your students, hey, we have 5 minutes left to work on this. And they can't continue browsing the internet or move through the browser in any way, shape, or form until they acknowledge this message that you have sent out. So you no longer will have students that say like, oh, I didn't know how much time I had, or I didn't know I didn't know this instruction that you shared or what we were supposed to do, because they have to actually click a button acknowledging the message that you're sending out here. See in there, can you show student views? So the students just on their browser regularly. So my view right here, outside of the fact that we're on a teacher's dashboard, if I were looking at this deck as a student, this would be what the student sees. The student, and the other addition actually to that would be that there are some transparency tools so students know that GoGuardian Teacher is turned on, but they browse the internet as usual. And that's like their view per se. Closing that out. We could also reach out to our students by clicking the quote bubbles directly here. So we'll click that and it opens up the chat that's here. So I can reach out to Bianca if I need to speak to Bianca. And again, we switch back to that student activity tab. I get to see what Bianca's active tab is, as well as what she has opened on behind the scenes. So now that we're clicked in here, I want to show off some of the features that you have at your fingertips. So right here, I mentioned earlier that you can exclude students from a session. So this would be, say, Bianca missed class the other day with another teacher and needs to make up a test, and she has to use her computer for this. I can exclude her from my session here, and it's going to tell me what this means. And so I can no longer see Bianca's screen because Bianca has been excluded from my session because she is going to go take a test in another classroom, and I had no need to manage her device while we're working together in class today. Once Bianca is done and I want to bring her back into our classroom, all I have to do is click the re-include student, and she'll appear offline for a second, but then Bianca's screen will reconnect and we will be able to continue to monitor what she's browsing and make sure that she is staying on task. Ooh. There she is. We'll expand her view again. So other items that I have here is the ability to open a new tab. So say if I know Bianca is a student that might struggle with multiple steps and I want to kind of guide her on this journey, and we're going to launch a Pear Deck presentation, I can actually open a new tab for her. So we'll go to peardeck.com. And then Pear Deck will open up on Bianca's tab here. It's taking a second. All righty. Now that that tab is open, like I said, Bianca sometimes struggles with multiple steps. So I want to guide her and help her figure out what button she has to click next. So I'll use our annotate feature that is right here. It's on that command bar. So if I click annotate, we have the ability to choose a color as well as the pointer size. And I'll click join a session because that's where Bianca needs to click in order to join our session today. So I will click right on it. There we go. And that green button appears on Bianca's screen. So Bianca will see this large green dot on her screen. And now she knows that she has to click the join a session button right there. It lasts about 10 seconds and then it erases. So it's not permanently on the student's screen. As you can see, I've clicked it multiple times and it is struggling with that. So it is right in this area that Bianca knows to click that, and she'll be able to join our session from there. We can always close this out as well in case we have to utilize one of these other tools down here. We have the ability to lock a student device. So if I were to lock Bianca's device or even the entire classroom's device because we're moving on to something else, you click the lock device button here, and maybe what happened is Bianca, I was going over everyone's homework and I didn't see Bianca. So I'm calling Bianca up to my desk to talk about her homework. So I can say, please come to my desk. So I'll lock Bianca's screen and come out of here. So now Bianca's device is locked. She sees that message. It will be displayed on her view, and Bianca will know, okay, I can't do anything with my computer right now, and Miss Dykes needs to speak with me. So she'll come up to my desk. We'll talk about the homework. She'll say, oh, it's in my backpack. She'll bring it over to me. And then once we have all of that settled, I can unlock Bianca's device, and then she will have access to her device once more and will be able to continue to browse the internet. Jumping back into her view here one last time, we also have this ability here to grab a screenshot. So if we take that screenshot, we get to see it, we get to have it, and it is stored in our session history. Our students are not aware, just so you know, that the screenshot is being taken. It doesn't appear on their end. Some of the prime use cases I feel that really highlight the use of our screenshot is the ability to celebrate our students. Sometimes, I mean, not even sometimes, these kids are very tech savvy and they just like know where to find things. And sometimes our students stumble across like really cool websites that are great for research, and you want to put that in your back pocket, or you want to just shout out your student for exploring the internet in positive ways. You could grab that screenshot and share it with guardians, or even share it to your entire class or other teachers about different resources that they might want to utilize. Oh, 100%. Sometimes my nephew, at this point, my nephew is my IT guy. Anytime I have a problem, I'm just calling him up and asking him to fix it. So quick question. So the entire device locks, another window or different Google account can't be open. So the browser locks. So it's very Yes, so the browser is going to lock. It's very similar to that announcement feature, except the announcement feature, the minute a student acknowledges the announcement, they can continue browsing. If you lock that student's device, then they can't continue browsing until you unlock it. The biggest caveat here being that, yes, it is blocking the browser. It is not locking the entire device. Would a tech-savvy student be able to force quit the browser on a locked device, or is device securely locked? I would have to double check on that. I do not know if they can actually exit out of that browser. And even if they did, and they were to go back to their, even if they did, it would open back up into their Boston Public Schools account. So then that device would still be locked, or that browser would still be locked. Great. And just so you know, while we're in this view, you can toggle through your students this way as well. So if you don't want to use that all tile view, you can just toggle through the views right here, and you have access to all of those features down there. We can also select multiple students. So if I need to make sure that these students are on task, I can select their screens just by clicking, or select their devices just by clicking that little checkbox. And then I can say open new tab, and we can send them to, here we go, we'll send them to joinpd.com. All right, and then those tabs will open for them, and we could select all of our students just by clicking that top checkbox up there, or unselect them as well. Cool. Right here is our timeline view. So sometimes looking at the screens is a little overwhelming, and sometimes we just don't necessarily need it. We just need to have eyes on what our students are doing throughout our session today. So your timeline view gives you a snapshot of the primary tab. And then if you click that, you can see all the other tabs that were open as well. It tells you how long they were on the active tab. And again, those other tabs there as well. And so this data is coming in at real time. As you can see, the new data is populating here on the edge. And you can always go back to the history and scroll through and examine that way. Right here in the next tab of our sessions is where the screenshots are stored. So this is one place that we can find those screenshots in case we're looking for them. But there are a couple of other places, and I'll show those off in just a little bit. And we'll come back to our screens here. And so the next item that I really want to point out is the ability to use scenes. So right here, we see that no scene is applied. And like I said earlier, a scene is an additional layer of filtering. So if I wanted to actually build and create my own scenes for my classroom, I would just need to go over to our sidebar here and click the scenes button. It is located right underneath the classrooms. So we have two options here. We have our allowed websites list and our blocked websites list. I'll actually remove this. Our allowed websites list is our most restrictive filtering or scene. So essentially you're saying this list of websites here, this is the only list of websites that my students can visit. Everything else is blocked. So that's going to be your most restrictive. So think your students are taking a quiz or a test, or you're doing an assessment. That's that time you'll want to use your allowed websites list. Your blocked websites list is essentially saying, okay, my student can browse the internet as they normally would, but they cannot visit these social media websites, or they can't go to YouTube. So that's going to be, it's going to give you a lot more leeway. So your students can still browse freely, but they can't go to certain websites. So if we wanted to actually create one of these for an assessment, we're going to use our allowed websites list here. So I'll say create list. You'll give it a name. So I'll say reading assessment. You can give it a quick description here, and then we'll click the next button. Something I like to point out is that no matter what, if you ever have additional questions about setting these scenes up, we have these help videos. So right at the top for both the allowed list as well as the blocked websites list, you'll see this need help, watch this tutorial. And it's just a step-by-step video of how you would get these set up. So again, if you ever need to revisit the topic, it's right here built into the tool. Cool. So we're on this page here, and this is where we actually add in the websites that we will be allowing our students to access. So we're doing a quick little assessment here. So I know that we utilize Edulastic for our assessment. So I will search for Edulastic. I'll add that in. I know that we use Google single sign-on for our Edge Elastic tool here. So I'm going to look up accounts.google.com and I'll search for that and I'll add that in. Now that I have both of these added in, these are things that our students can access. So as soon as they go into edgeelastic.com and then they sign into Edge Elastic, or they're going to sign in, and that sign in, the single sign-on page pops up, they can click all of those things and sign into their Edge Elastic account and then take the assessment. From there on, they can't open any other tab that would help them during this assessment. If they get distracted because they're bored with the assessment, there's nothing else that is left for them to do on their Chrome browser because they can only go to Edge Elastic. Another thing that I'll do is I'll auto open this tab. So that means that as soon as I apply this scene, whether it's at the beginning of the class or even in the middle of class, this tab, Edge Elastic, will auto open for our students, eliminating a step for them. So again, we're already moving forward. This is what I need you all to do right here. The tab is already open for you. So we'll select that and we'll save that by clicking the save button right here. And now that scene is created and it's resting right here. So our next little bit is that we want to think about our blocked websites list. So this is really big if you're trying to have like focus time. I've already created this one, which is our no social media, but just so you know, it's the same steps. You would click create a list, you give it a name, and then that step 2 walks you through, again, there's that video, and you just add in the list of websites that you want to have blocked. So I'm going to scroll down here and I'll close these out real quick because I'm going to show off how you can do that. So as you can see, I have Twitter, Netflix, all of these websites here. None of my students will be able to go to any of these websites while this scene is applied. If I wanted to, I can take a look at our quick list here. So your district may have already created some quick lists that you can just quickly add into your scene here and just have it apply for your scenes. GoGuardian also creates quick lists if that is something that you need to use or leverage in your classroom. So you could always look through to see, okay, in G Suite, they have all of these listed here, and I can just select the entire quick list here and add that to our scene. So for this blocked one, of course, we want to add in those social media sites. If I do the drop down, it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. That's perfect. So we'll add that to our scene here. And if I come down to the bottom, we can see right here where it says blocked social media sites, this little icon indicates that it came from our quick list. Now we see that we have YouTube here as something that we're currently blocking, but it is very possible that there is a YouTube video in particular that you want your students to have access to. So we can actually utilize our advanced filtering to help our students keep all of YouTube blocked except for this one video. So if I click underneath, it's underneath more options right here, underneath our quick list, advanced filtering. If I click on that, it even gives you the exact example that I'm showing off right here is blocking all of YouTube except for this one specific video. And if you ever need to dive into it more, we have some help articles right here. But I'm going to grab this quick little Volcano 101 video, and I'm going to add it to our exceptions list. So all of YouTube is blocked except for this one video right here. And so this is something that I know, like, oh, we're doing a research project on volcanoes, and I think this is very informative, and I want my students to have access to this. I can make sure they have access to this one video without opening all of YouTube so they don't get distracted by the millions of other videos there. So we'll click the update scene button in that bottom right. And once we do that, we can scroll down and see right here where it says advanced filters. That's where we see our one exception. And we can always edit that. So if I need to add in another video, I can edit that. If I need to remove this volcanoes video completely, I can do that as well. All right, so we'll save this. And we're actually going to go back into our classroom session. So just so you know, in case you have multiple sessions running at a time, or if you ever click out of your session and you need to get back to it quickly, it's going to be sitting at this top bar up here. So all you have to do is click on it right at that top bar where it says sessions, and that's where all of your live sessions will live, and you can click right into them there. So we just created 2 scenes. And so maybe what I want to do is give 2 of my students a reading assessment while my other students get to work on this volcano project. So we'll say that we had a few students that were absent last week that need to take this assessment, and we can actually create student groups. So if I wanted to create a new group here, we'll do custom groups because I know which students need to take the assessment that they missed last week. So we'll name group A our testing group. And that'll be Becca and Bianca. And then we'll add in another group and we'll call them the volcano group. And that'll be everybody else. Great. So once I click next, it's going to ask me to name this group. So I'll just name it the testing focus time group. And now they're broken up. So we have our testing group up here, and then we have our volcano group here. The biggest, like one of the most important things here is that our students can have different scenes going at a time. So our testing group, we're going to apply that reading assessment. So once I apply that reading assessment scene right here, their tabs will update to Edulastic. All right, and as you can see right down here, all of those other scenes, or not scenes, all of those other websites are blocked because this is our allowed listed scene. So it blocks everything else except those websites that we have allowed, which we've only allowed Edulastic and that accounts.google.com so that they can sign into Edulastic. Our volcano group down here, right now, they don't have a scene applied, but I know I want them to focus and not get on any social media. So I can turn on our blocked websites list here. So no social media, so they can't go to Facebook, Snapchat, all of those tools. And maybe I really want them to start the volcano research watching that YouTube video that I allowed for them. So I'll select that entire group there. I'll jump over here and I'll grab this link. And I'm going to open that tab for them. So we'll paste that in there. We'll open the tab. And now everyone can see that Volcanoes 101 video, but if students would try to go to something else, then they would they wouldn't be able to access the volcano video. Interestingly enough, as you can see here, Tyler doesn't have access to this YouTube video, and that is because Tyler's device is being blocked by the district level filtering. So something I like to note here is that while you can apply additional layers of filtering utilizing GoGuardian Teacher, you cannot override your district level filtering. So if at a district level, BPS does not allow YouTube, you would not necessarily be able to override that by allowing YouTube utilizing our scenes. So that's just something I like to point out here.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So what if another teacher in your school does have GoGuardian and they block it? So I've had that experience, and I've had, it was easy because the teacher was close by. But when that teacher isn't close by, how is there an administrator at the school level that we have, or how can we unblock it if another teacher has students?
Yes. So that does happen sometimes. Sometimes our teachers they still have their sessions running and those scenes are still going on. So I'm trying to actually find I'll find the actual help article that outlines it, but usually if multiple scenes are running, a yellow bar appears on the top of your screen. That'll say, hey, it looks like one of your students is in another scene. And there's a button on that yellow bar that says resolve that you would click that would resolve that issue. So it would take those students out of that scene. And this is due to a problem of a teacher not ending a previous scene, or they haven't excluded their student if they're utilizing a particular scene that student is included in.
So that's fine if you're using GoGuardian. I wasn't using it. So what about those teachers that are not using GoGuardian? How do we deal with that? Because my situation was that I wasn't using GoGuardian. It was the other teacher who was, but because I could access them easily, he would resolve that. So when your students' computers are now, taken over by another teacher and you're not using GoGuardian, who is at the school level or at the district level that can resolve that?
I don't know if that would be a question for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anna, would you mind posting that in the chat? Your audio was cutting in and out. It was a little hard for me to follow what you're saying, but I'd be happy to address that question if you type it out.
Thank you. I'll do that.
Thanks.
Yeah, it can get tricky if those sessions aren't being ended properly and those students are stuck in scenes when they're in a classroom that isn't utilizing GoGuardian Teacher. And I can see that being a little frustrating, especially like you said, if the teacher is not that close. Great. So right now, yes, so we're in this view right here. And then we have our students that are taking their reading assessment as well as our volcano group here. And maybe I know both of my students have completed their reading assessment and it's now time for all of us to come back together. There are a couple of ways I can do this. One, if I wanted to, I could cancel each scene first before bringing everyone back. I can say disable scene, both right here. I could also just come right up here to student groups. And if I disable the groups, everyone's going to come back together and no scene will be applied. And then right up here, we also have our scenes button where we can disable all the scenes at once. So let's just disable our groups. We'll all come back together. No scene is applied. And if I need to reapply that blocked media scene, I could just do that right there. All right, so once we're ready to actually end our session, so class is over, we're done utilizing our devices, all you have to do is click that red end session button right there. And it's going to ask you if you want to do this. All right, we'll close that out. And so now we have just ended our session here. So I can go back to our classes or I can look at the timeline view of my previous session. So we're actually just going to jump back to our classes. I'm going to click back into that classroom card. So we just finished our classes up here, but I want to show you that this is where you can find your session history. So all of your sessions are going to be stored here. You could actually click into your sessions here and you could take a look at that timeline view again. So right here, I see that Jeff was on YouTube for a little bit and I can see the video that Jeff was looking at, as well as the other tabs that were open at that time. And so we can see all of that in our timeline view. That screenshot of Bianca's that I took, that is still here. And if I need to, I can download it or I can save it to my Google Drive. And then right here is our command log. So it's every command that I took while we were in session. Excuse me. And if we ever needed to look at our chat log, we could do that still within our session history here. And by going to chat logs, and we could view that chat log. Great. All right. Another place that we can find some very useful information is within the student reports tab here. So we're looking at our sidebar. Underneath our calendar tab is the student report tab. And so what you do is you come in here, you'll select the class, you'll select the student, and then you'll select the date range. So at a time, you can pull up to 30 days worth of data. We store data going back to 6 months. So within all of that 6-month data that we have, you can pull up to 30 days worth of data. So right here, we have a quick option. So I'll just grab the last 30 days here. Then we'll say view report. You could also email that report to yourself and anyone else that might need to have eyes on it. And so right here within this report, we get to see our students' top 5 websites, top 5 documents, and top 5 Google searches. We'll scroll down here. This right here, this intervention block, is how many times we have interacted with the student utilizing GoGuardian Teacher. So how many times have we locked our students' screens? How many times have we opened a tab for our student? How many times have we closed a tab for our student? And then how many times has our student attempted to look at a blocked website? Right here is another place that we could view those screenshots that we have taken throughout our sessions here. And then we get a detailed look at their browsing history here. So again, we still have that information. We can still see the sites that they were trying to visit. And maybe again, our student was looking at a pretty awesome website that had a ton of research and just items that we want to share out with our teachers. We could come here to their detailed browsing history and grab the URL to that and share that out with our colleagues to flag as, hey, this is a pretty great resource that maybe we should start utilizing in our classrooms. Great. Coming back over here. So a few help places that I want to point out is right here. If you're ever struggling just a little bit and need some additional insight, think like if maybe as a one-off, you have a student that is their screen keeps saying student offline, but you see that they're logged in the correct way and you just need a quick little help article or assistance here. If you click that little help button there, we have how-to guides, some video trainings, and then of course, we're also selecting, asking for feedback from you all about how to improve this tool, but the guides as well as the video training would provide some useful insight. We also have this help button here, which is a quick way to send, it's almost like a little chat message to our support team so that they can get back to you pretty quickly if there is an error that is happening that doesn't seem to be resolving itself. Jumping over here. We also have our just direct, so if you want to reach out to our support team, you would go to support@goguardian.com. And then we have our help center right here that I'm going to share out with everyone. And we have a search bar here, but I just recommend going straight to GoGuardian, right to teacher, and utilizing that search bar. We have a ton of help articles here that are here to help you resolve any like small troubleshooting issues. Again, if it is happening to the entire classroom or just seems bigger than just like a one-off issue, please reach out directly to our support team and they will get back to you ASAP and make sure that that issue is resolved. I also wanted to point out that this deck is something that I would love to share out with you all because it does kind of highlight quickly like the why for some of these features, as well as what you're looking for when you're actually utilizing these features in your classroom. And it talks a little bit about what a scene is. And just so you all know, when a scene is being blocked for, when a website is being blocked by a scene that you have created, this is what the screen will look like for your students. So notice how on Tommy's screen, I forgot his name, but when we looked at his screen, it was like a lock and it said blocked by administrators. That's your indicator that it is being blocked by the district level. If you see this screen here, that means it's being blocked by a scene that you created. And if you ever needed to make edits to that scene, say like, oh no, I didn't mean for this site to be blocked, it actually needs to be added or allowed, you could always go back to that scenes page. Oops. We'll just jump back to our scenes page. Alrighty, you'll come back here, you'll click it, and you're taken right to this page where you can make the necessary edits that you have. So we learned how to actually create a classroom. We talked about how to start those sessions, the various ways that we could, whether it's auto start it or manually start it. We talked about our chat and announcement feature, which helps us make strong bonds with our students and give them that real time feedback, which is pretty important. We saw the various commands that we have at our fingertips to help keep our students on track and focused. We talked about the scenes, which give you that additional filtering in your classroom. And we looked over the reports and the information that is in there for you all to whether you need to share it with other teachers, your principals, or even guardians. And we'll open it up to a Q&A. And with that, it's perfect. We see that there is a question in there. Is there a way to make a simulated student account when using a teacher account in order to get hands-on experience with the UI on the student's end? So
just to clarify on that question, it's, you know, I like to, in all the other like interfaces and the programs that I've used, I like to go in and try it from the student's end to see how it works, but also to see, you know, what are ways they can get around things or try to enjoy. So when I'm teaching, I know what to watch for.
Yeah, so the only thing there would be that the extensions would have to be deployed on like for that like associated account. So even if you were utilizing maybe you have your BPS account for your teacher account and you utilize like a personal email address for like a fake student account, the only thing there is that the GoGuardian licenses would have to be in BPS's like OU, and then the extensions would have to be deployed to that user.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
Feel free to keep shooting some questions in the chat. I know that there are a few more slides here that we wanted to cover, so I will answer in the chat.
All right, thanks so much, Brittany. We're gonna wrap up here. Looks like we might get done a little bit early. One of the things I wanted to make sure that you all knew, especially if you have never used GoGuardian before, is how you can get a BPS GoGuardian license. So I'm gonna go ahead and post those instructions in the chat. Now, a couple things. When you click on the link that Brittany just sent in the chat, you can read over the instructions. Brittany, would you mind clicking on that? And
Yeah.
basically, you have to take a online course. It's very, very important that you know that this is a tool for teachers, not for administrators. So if you are someone who has a class, it's okay if you're a librarian or occupational therapist, you would just need to be added to the class of that teacher, or you would have to have a class created for you in Aspen. And so having this class is really, really important. Otherwise, you will not have access to it. So that is like criteria number one. And once that's set, then you can follow the help doc here to learn how to register for the course. And once you take the course, fill out the form, you'll have an account created for you within 48 hours. And we have to document this process this way because we want to make sure that people understand like the full scope of how to utilize the tool. And I think all of you already have an advantage here because you got to learn a little bit about it from Brittany. And so you have a sense of what all those features are. So I would say that as a next step, after you finish today's session, you can go ahead, click on the link to register for the course. I will say though, that if you are brand new to BPS and you do not yet have a BPS email, you will not be able to take the course. So you would probably have to wait until after your start date, which is August 30th or 31st. So as soon as you get that BPS email and you know you have classes in Aspen, then I would go ahead and take the course. If you already have an account, great. Why don't you just practice logging in? Again, you want to make sure you have a class. Otherwise, you won't see anything in there. So that's a little bit about getting access to the application. A couple of other things I also wanted to mention to you are around some links. So you're going to find across all of our PDs this week with BPS technology, we are sharing key resources. We have a lot of webinars coming up. We have 1 and 2 o'clock today on HyperDocs. And if you're interested in signing up for those, please feel free to click on the Digital Learning Team PD website link that's here. I'm going to post the link to the slides one more time in the chat. Okay. And then once you've signed up for those, there's a couple of other technical things I want to mention. I've heard from a few folks today that you are actually joining this on your phone and not your computer. So I would recommend after you hang up this session to go back on your computer and reinstall Zoom. You may even have to restart your computer just to make sure that everything is working, because I do have to tell you that while you didn't need to use your computer for today's session, other sessions are going to be a little bit more hands-on. It would be very hard to do that if you're using your phone. If you have any technical challenges, please feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to help you with that. I'll probably email the chat, okay? But I recommend after this, reinstall Zoom on your computer, just restart your computer and hopefully everything will be all right. Finally, at the end, the very last slide, this is at the end of every session. This is how you are going to get credit for being here today. Please fill out the feedback form. If you don't have a chance to fill it out right now, I will be emailing you 3 things, which is the recording from today, the slides, and the feedback form. All of my co-presenters who are doing sessions throughout this week will be doing the exact same thing. So let's go ahead and post that feedback form in the chat. You can also get it from the slide deck. All right. All right, once again, thank you so much to all of you for attending today's session. I hope you got a lot out of it. And thank you to Brittany for facilitating this fantastic session. It's a great recording. I can't wait to share with more teachers. And I hope you all have a great school year. We'll see you around.
Thank you all so much. You'll have a great one.